everyone. This is Lincoln of Channel Higher Self, and today I'm with
Lisa Love of Soul Nature.
And in today's video, we're going to talk to you about how to guide yourself. So as you may know, Lisa and I both work as spiritual guides for people. I channel the higher self-consciousness and create YouTube videos, as well as work in person and online with people to help them move through their own lives. Lisa is also a guide.
I am. I'm a spiritual guide and meditation teacher, as well as an energetic healer. So I work with people privately and online as well, helping guide them deeper into themselves, into the true nature of their own soul.
In today's video, we're going to give away all of our secrets and tips. Right? We're going to help you learn how to guide yourself. Now, in our own lives, Lisa and I have developed the skills that we use to guide others, actually by learning to experience more into our own selves. And myself, I've never read a book on how to work with another person. Right? I don't read books typically. I like to explore my own self, and also during my daily life as I interact with people, I use my own awareness to perceive what's going on. And naturally, all of this comes together in the information that I understand about the human experience and the information I use to help guide others. And I know Lisa also draws upon her personal experience in a lot of the ways that she helps other people.
Yes, over 2 decades of my own spiritual practices, spiritual path, putting my understanding of myself before anything else in life, truly. And I experienced some trauma as a child, and through my own healing, then coming into a new place within myself, feeling healed, feeling whole, and then really wanting to guide other people through that process as well as for their own true healing and transformation.
And you've really found the value of the healing process through your own personal exploration. I think it's wonderful that that's something that you want to pass on to others, because then it's authentic and real.
It is, and it's also showing that it's possible.
Yeah, that's true. Because a lot of people, they doubt themselves, they doubt the possibility of healing and transformation. And when someone can show up as an example to that, it can be a very powerful form of motivation and also support.
Yeah, definitely an inspiration. And I know along my own journey of healing, there were times when I wasn't sure if it was going to change, and if I had somebody else there to be like, yes, it's possible, then that would have been beneficial. Yeah,
and I think it's important that we do draw upon each other as sources of knowledge and inspiration, as well as energetic support. Oftentimes we do feel very isolated and alone on our spiritual journeys and in our life in general. And sometimes we forget that we're all part of the human organism. Essentially we share the same planet with everyone else. We share the same DNA with everyone else. We're really an interconnected network of consciousness rather than just one independent human being living alongside of another independent human being. And when we can actually pair up or partner with someone who has already traveled a journey that we're traveling, we draw upon their experience as they communicate with us, but we're also drawing upon their energetic signature.
Yes.
People know from watching my video teachings, and they often tell me that just being in the presence of myself while I channel is very supportive. Sometimes they just play the videos in the background while they're doing their normal activities, and they're not really consciously focusing on the words, but they do feel supported, uplifted, and better because they're in that frequency that I'm carrying in my videos.
Yeah, I can attest to that. I've used your videos before in that way, definitely. Yeah, and there is an energy and vibration that's emanating from all of us. And so we can tap into that. And that actually brings me around to how to guide yourself. And one of the first places I feel to start is to clear your own energy, to be able to go deeper into ourselves, to know how to guide ourselves from within. It's important that our own energetic field is clear. What do you think about that?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's one of the reasons, like I said earlier, I don't read books. I don't want anyone else's information to interfere with my own ability to build an understanding of my life and my reality, what's happening in my mind, body, and emotions. Now, I have learned from others, but when I do, I'm very selective. There's very few situations where I feel myself wanting to reach out to another person's system of understanding to benefit from it. And I don't think it's being selfish. I think it's really just being discriminating. You know, I've spent decades of time cultivating how I live my life and trying to live at the highest level that I can. And so along that way, I've become very selective about what information I put into my mind. And I know you mentioned the importance of clearing ourselves, and I think that in the modern day world, most human beings fill their minds with way too many concepts, and they end up confusing themselves, and they jump from one ideology to another ideology, or in a situation they're confused because in their mind they're recalling so many people's different opinions about how to understand something or what to do in something. And it really makes sense to clear ourselves out, especially in this age of being overly saturated with information through social media.
Absolutely. And then it's going to make one have a harder time distinguishing between what is my authentic, clear voice, what is my authentic, clear intuition, if you're having all these other thought forms and energies and, like you said, ideologies and spiritual teachings inside of oneself. It can be confusing.
Yeah, definitely. Especially when we know that the answer is truly within us. And how can we listen to that very quiet place of knowing in our heart if we're up in our head listening to all the concepts and everyone's voice and everyone's opinion? It's challenging. Like, we first do have to begin by emptying ourselves. And then we can find these deeper places within us that have that innate wisdom that we've always been carrying. You know, I often tell people that your next step is already right in front of you. And if we quiet our mind down, we can see the next step we're supposed to take. We already know it. Right? But oftentimes we're not looking at what's right here. We're off in our imagination or in our thoughts somewhere else.
Or filling ourselves up with other people's thoughts. Yeah, so that first step of really clearing your energy, you know, of other people's thoughts, vibrations, and frequencies, how would one go about doing that?
The practice that I've always used is just listening to the sound of silence and feeling the space of the present moment. So we focus on that which is formless and empty, that which has no movement, that which is still, that which is quiet. And as we look with our awareness into that aspect of life, we actually become the emptiness we're perceiving. Right? The thoughts become silent, the emotions become still, and instead of feeling the density and all the activity of the body, we start to balance that with the feeling of the open space of our consciousness. So we actually, at least my method is, we actually focus upon that which we want to become. If you want to become emptiness, just focus on emptiness. If you want to gain silence, just focus on silence. I think in the modern day spiritual teachings, we're actually like really confused in some ways. Like people say, you know, to get silent, like, you know, dance around or like, you know, start singing or do this mantra. And for me, like, yeah, they have their benefits, but if you want if you want silence, then focus on silence.
But that may be hard for some people. And so may I offer a different, approach? Yeah. Because one thing that I have found is that, and I do feel that that's why there are so many different pathways, because we are different people at different stages in our evolution, in our growth, and our abilities. And there's that pathway of practice. And so, you know, for me at times, a way for me to clear out my energy and come into that space of emptiness and clear my field of everything that's not mine is by really connecting into the earth beneath me. And I guess I do more of a visualization process of really visualizing this golden light, this very cleansing light coming into my energetic field, coming into my body, and just clearing and cleansing everything right down into earth. So I guess I use more of a visioning process, which then also lends to a quieting of my mind because I'm focused on this process and trusting that is happening, and I can feel it happening. And then there's the clarity. Then I'm like, okay, this is just me here in my space. And then the silence and the emptiness come.
Yeah, and I think you pointed out an important piece, right? As you're doing those practices, you're focusing on one thing. And all the distraction, all the energy of ourselves that's usually scattered and connected into all these different thoughts and feelings, you're concentrating back into one present moment experience.
Which is me here with myself.
And so you're collecting all your mental energy and forming that visualization. And you're collecting your emotional energy and feeling that energy actually move through you. So it's the power of your imagination. It's actually manifesting an emotional energy body change. So you're actually using your mind to work with your energy system.
Right, all aspects of one's being, mental, emotional, physical, feeling in the body, and then on an energetic level as well. So we're working through the energy field.
Yeah, and it points to the idea that, there are many ways that we can work within ourselves. And like we began, I discovered my way just by exploring myself, what worked for me. And she discovered her way by exploring what works for her. And something just that I know we're going to talk on in another one of these video conversations, but it's very interesting that my way is more masculine.
Yes.
I'm seeking the emptiness, and that brings me into a state of balance and harmony. And you're filling yourself up with something, and that brings you into that state of balance and harmony.
Right, which I feel is the difference in the masculine, in the feminine, and also part of why we are doing this video series is to talk about a same topic from two different perspectives and realities and ways of being, so that it gives a sense and an approach of, there's many pathways to the same place. And
and something else that comes to mind that's interesting is, sometimes people will ask me, like, Lincoln, what type of music do you listen to? And I tell them I don't really listen to music. Like, I enjoy the sound of silence. I enjoy the quiet sounds of the natural world. And that relates to what I use to empty myself, right? Where I work with some people who are very passionate about music, and for them it's perhaps going to be toning or mantra that's going to bring them back into the state of balance and harmony.
exactly.
So in this aspect of finding our own state of centeredness, right, we really have to discover what works for us.
Yes.
And that again ties into the topic, how to guide yourself. So really the first step of emptying yourself requires you to know enough about yourself to know what works for you. And this is all a process of developing your ability to guide yourself.
And self-understanding. Know thyself was, something that was written over the Temple of Delphi in Greece. And that was considered the first spiritual tenet, is to know thyself. And then once we know thyself and we know how to operate, and also knowing that, an approach for a man may be a little different for a woman, and that's okay. And it doesn't mean there's something wrong with us because we can't get to it in a certain way. But it's really about the fact that we are getting to it, that we are developing our own self-love, our own self-knowing. And that's a beautiful process. That's a beautiful thing. And however it turns out on the other side is okay, because the end result brings you back to yourself.
Yeah, even when you are working to empty yourself, you are honoring yourself and recognizing who you are as that creator at the center of your universe. And so even if you're not able to empty yourself to that state of inner silence, you're still making progress. Not only in creating inner silence, but also building this ability to know who you are and to work with yourself directly. And like you said, it takes time. It takes even years of practice and self-discovery to really reach a lot of these more developed stages of personal ability.
Yes, I've been on the spiritual path since I was about 14. I'm 41. And that's a long time. And, I can't say that I got to a place of really a space of silence or quick ease into that silence of my own intuition, my own inner guidance system, probably until I was close to 30,
So like 15 years.
Yeah, and I tried different approaches and different things, and all along it's developing that muscle, developing that spiritual muscle.
Yeah, and I think that's really important to mention, that the process of awakening is really the development of ourselves.
Yes.
It's like we're an artist and we're developing our skill, or a craftsman developing one's craft. People often think about spirituality more like consumerism. You sign up for this weekend course and you get something at the end of the weekend.
And then you're disappointed when you don't have it, and you feel like you failed and you're not good enough and you can't get it right.
And part of that's the fault of the student or the spiritual seeker not really understanding what spirituality is, what genuine spirituality is. And part of it, I feel, is the fault of the teacher, who uses materialism to advertise themselves in a way that captivates the audience and plays upon the ignorance of the students.
Exactly. That's where I was going to go as well, that it's that marketing aspect of, take this weekend workshop and at the end you're going to achieve enlightenment. And then, what ensues from there is a lot of personal disappointment.
Sure.
And how many people are really speaking about the time that it really takes to be able to meditate, to be able to guide oneself.
And often people feel that there's something wrong with themselves. They go to maybe a workshop on channeling, and at the end of the weekend, they still can't channel. And they think there's something wrong with me. And part of that is, it was proposed, you come here for the weekend, you learn how to channel. And there's an expectation. And the reality is, it takes a cultivation of a quality within ourselves to be able to have that ability to channel, or to work with Reiki energies, or even to quiet the mind. It's a skill. It's not something that can be purchased, and it's not something that I can give to you by you just paying me money, right? I can help you with my field of energy, right? I can help you with the knowledge I've gained. I can instruct you. But essentially, I'm just handing something off to you, and then you have to take it and you have to work with it, and then it becomes yours.
Yeah, apply the practice, apply it, make time and space for it in your life. So we have step 1.
Okay. Yeah.
How to guide clearing your energy field. So then what would be step 2 of how to guide yourself?
I would say it would be increasing the sensitivity of your awareness. Right. Once we empty ourselves out, we find ourselves in a quieter space. We have to then stay in that state of awareness and try to perceive something more subtle, right? Like the inner voice, it doesn't talk to us like the thoughts talk to us. It's not this loud thing in our head. It's actually a quiet, more like a feeling of knowing, right? It's a part within us where we experience an answer of knowing. But to get to that place, we have to be able to listen to that silent voice.
And sense where it is and where it's coming from. And it is deeper than the mind. It resonates deeper in the body, which is a lot of what we talked about in that other video, is embodying your spiritual energy. And so within that, your own true voice, your authentic voice that's resonating from your heart and your soul, comes deeper from within the body, which means that you have to really sink under the thoughts. And I like what you're saying. It's like this amplification almost of our senses so that we can find that.
Yeah. I often use a metaphor that listening to inner voice is like listening to a very quiet stereo system, right? So we have 2 stereos in the same room, right? And one is very loud, and that's like our thoughts. And so we empty ourselves, we use these different techniques, and that's like turning down the volume on that loud stereo. And that quieter stereo is always playing, but we really didn't notice it until we started to turn down that loud volume, right? And then you find this place within you that's really playing a different song. It's communicating in a different way. And a lot of people think that their inner voice is going to talk to them in their head, and they're like waiting for their higher self to appear talking to them. And that's not what it is for me. It's actually our own knowing, but it's a deeper type of intelligence than what the thought process has. And when we get into that heart-centered space, right, by feeling that heart and becoming very sensitive as the awareness we are, right, then we start to notice how this part of our mind, this deeper part of our mind, really perceives our life situations.
Yes, and for myself, my own internal guidance system is very, very wise. It has this very strong wisdom and this ancient resonance. And I can always tell it's different than my mind, because my mind is more, it might have a more fear-based thought, or it might have a more desirous thought, but that soul wisdom, it always surprises me. I can tell it's a different energy, it's a different vibration than what my normal thought patterns are.
Yeah, very much so. And it has a whole different type of communication, not only in how it communicates, but also what it's communicating.
Yeah.
Like the deeper part of us doesn't place importance on many of the things that our thoughts place importance on. Like that deeper part is really connected into our soul's wisdom and our soul's path of growth. And like you said, it is ancient in a way. It's been within us the whole time. And it's a very simple yet solid voice.
Yes. A lot of things that come up with my clients when I'm guiding them into learning how to guide themselves is something comes up around trust. How can I trust that this is it? And it's not just my mind tricking me. I've heard that before. And what I tell them is try it. Listen, try it, take action on what you're hearing, and see what happens. And that also starts to develop a relationship. It's like any relationship with anybody else. You want to meet a new friend, you met someone you really like, and it's up to you to reach out to them, to make an appointment, to, hey, I want to hang out with you and spend time with you and get to know you better. It's the same thing with our own internal guidance system, with our soul's voice and our soul's wisdom. We have to reach out for it. And even, I'm making this clear intention that I want to hear my soul's voice, that I want to be able to connect with this deeper essence within myself, and stating that intention and then continuing to develop that relationship begins to strengthen it as well.
Yeah, and I would say that's the third step, right? Yeah. So we quiet ourselves down, empty ourselves out, develop that sensitivity to find that inner knowing, or that inner voice, or that intuitive guidance system. And then we learn to stay connected with it. We trust it. We build a relationship with it. And that means living it. It means allowing it to change how we think and how we feel and how we act. And I think a big part of it is learning how to correct ourselves. And that requires humility. Because you might be in your own personal reaction, like in your pain body or your ego, whatever you might call it by, and you say something to someone and it hurts them, or you even feel something inside yourself and later on you realize it's selfish, or it's coming from a place that might be like your wounded child or your sense of pride. And you go inside yourself, you quiet down because you can feel that discontent in that moment, like something was out of balance. So you center yourself again, and then you recall that situation, you think about it, and you find your sense of truth in it. And you may realize like, wow, I was being really cruel, or I was cold-hearted, or I said something that I didn't really mean. Right? And then, like, how do you bring that inner knowing forward? Well, you got to talk to the person you hurt, or you have to make a change in your life, and that requires humility, right? The ego has to step down and allow this unified sense of wisdom, right? This wisdom that wants to create harmony in life to come forward. And pride can't be there with it, or if it's not genuine, it's not authentic. Like arrogance can't be there with it. Right? It's an actual feeling of sincerity and wholeness and connection. And so as we trust our own inner voice, it's going to ask us to live it. Right? And the more we live it, the more we're going to experience that inner knowing's qualities. Right? We're going to live a life guided by wisdom. Right? We're going to make choices grounded in wisdom. We're going to have experiences of oneness, peace, happiness, and love more often, because we're living from that place within us that is existing in those qualities already. The egoic mind, it's existing in separation, right? It's all concepts and ideas coming from how the world affected me, right? All of this separation. And the heart, it just feels unity. And that wisdom just exists in that state of oneness and love. And as we live from that place, right, then we start to really change our life, and we start to see what it can be like to live from our own higher mind.
Yeah, I see it as the energy of the heart, the energy of the soul begins to grow within your physical body and into your emotional body, into your energetic body, and it just continues to expand, and then it becomes you. And I think that that's like something you and I have talked about, is that a lot of people think the higher self consciousness is outside of yourself, but really it's about having that integrated within yourself, and then you're living as that fully in all aspects of your being.
Yeah, and then you create higher consciousness relationships and a higher consciousness career path, maybe. You start to really change this human reality and make it into something very different than what you are conditioned to believe it should be. Right? You find your authentic voice, and your life becomes a reflection of your authentic self. And I can tell you from my own experience, like, it's a blissful life. You know, everything is harmonious, everything's in alignment, everything looks more beautiful and sounds more beautiful. It's like the whole world comes alive, and it starts to fill your heart. And it really is rooted in trusting yourself. Trusting that subtle part of yourself that you're able to find because you emptied yourself. Right? Because we're not just trusting our ego and our thoughts, we're actually discovering this deeper part within us that's asking us, or rather inviting us, to transform with it.
Yes, yes. It's sinking deeper into yourself. Yeah, coming from a deeper place in your body.
Yeah. Yeah, and trusting yourself, trusting what you find is really, really important. So is there a fourth step?
That feels good. It feels like the fullness of it.
Yeah, I think that's complete. 3 steps. Why not?
Simple.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you for listening to us today. I hope you enjoyed our higher consciousness conversation. Again, this is Lincoln of Channel Higher Self and Higher Self Teachings. And this is
Lisa Love of Soul Nature.
And thank you for joining us, and I wish you a blessed day.